Welcome, everybody. Welcome to the community forum for the Academy for Addiction and Mental Health Nutrition. Glad to see you all. We usually start with introductions and just a little bit about who you are, where you live, maybe what you do, and what your interest is in this talk. So, Elena, why don't you start? And
Hey,
just
hi
a couple of
everybody.
sentences. Let's
Yeah,
not do paragraphs.
no. Okay, so I'm in Sacramento County, nutrition educator since 2007. Christina's level 1 certificate in 2022, and also in long time recovery myself.
And you work with families in recovery.
Yes,
Yes, don't forget that. That's important, Elena.
yes, very important with Mark and Jeff. Yeah.
Yes. All right, Stacy.
You'll have to cue me in because I forget all of the things, but I'm from North Dakota.
Okay. And what's your interest in this presentation today?
As far as like it being a stress management program, right?
Just sort of why you're here.
I want to learn more.
Wonderful. Glad to have you.
Yep, thank you.
Yeah. Sarah.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Sarah. I live out in Massachusetts, and I currently am the program director for the WIC program. I worked many years as a senior nutritionist, and really just, want to keep learning specifically with nutrition and stress management and addiction and recovery. I work in a very high-risk population where addiction and recovery is very prevalent in the population. So just any opportunities to kind of learn and build some skills working with this population is helpful. Thank you.
Oh, good. I'm so glad you're here, Sarah. Susan.
Hi. Can you hear me okay?
I sure can.
Oh, it's so good to be here. I'm so happy to be here. My background is in the arts, and I was a professional singer for a long time. I am a recovering alcoholic for many, many years, but I did not get off the sugar. I just switched. And so I'm here because I'm here to learn, just like, is it not Joanne? I'm sorry.
Sarah.
Sarah. I'm here to learn just like Sarah. And so I'm from Boston area right now, and I'm very glad to be here. Thank you.
Glad you're here too, Susan. Andrea.
Hi, I am in Longmont, Colorado. I am a holistically trained chef. I work as a personal chef. I'm 2 years sober personally, and I do run a nutrition recovery group here in Longmont, and hoping to do the level 1 here in May, and get started with it, but mostly just geek out, talk nutrition with you guys, and learn some more stuff as well. So.
Wonderful. I'm so glad you're here, Andrea. Before I forget, I just want to say very often we do post this in YouTube and on our closed Facebook page. If for any reason you do not want anything to be posted, you let me know and it doesn't get posted. Okay, so I'm very respectful of everybody's sort of personal information and stories. And hold very clear boundaries there. And when possible, I like to post these things so that the whole world gets a chance to listen to them. Okay, Whitney.
Good morning, I'm Whitney and I'm in Tampa, Florida. We have a lovely, beautifully 71 and sunny day today. And I work as a recovery coach, a health and wellness coach. I specialize in addiction and recovery. And I have a good friend who's gone through your program. And so I've kind of become interested. And so I'm just here to kind of see what it's all about and also to learn some techniques for helping my clients with stress reduction.
Lovely. I'm so glad you're here.
Thank you.
Balsa.
She
I think I saw in the
posted
chat that
that
she was
she's
deaf.
driving. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Okay. That's okay. We'll hear from Balsa later. Is it Lee? Person who just left. Okay. Well, hopefully she'll be back, and welcome you all. So today's topic is the three-legged approach to stress management. And a month or so back, I talked about codependency or an adrenal fatigue, as it were, in response to the ongoing stress of living with an addicted family member. So I'm not going to talk so much about the adrenals this time. I want to talk about stress from a couple of different perspectives. So when we're taking the three-legged stool approach, we want to be asking where stress is actually coming from. Is it coming from depleted neurotransmitters and disordered biochemistry? Is it coming from being in an environment where more is being demanded of us than we are able to easily and effectively respond to? So are the expectations challenging? Is what we say to ourselves about ourselves and about the situation we find ourselves in increasing our stress? So negative versus positive self-talk, our attitude, our mindset can tremendously impact our experience of stress. And then spiritual elements. And I use spiritual very broadly. Some people have a close relationship with a higher power or religious beliefs. Other people don't so much. But we all, to live a thriving life, need to have meaning and purpose in our lives. We need to be able to give and receive love. We generally need to be able to give and receive forgiveness. And we generally need to have a basic trust that the world is an essentially safe place and that things will work out. And so we'll look at each of these legs a little more closely as we move along. I always start with the biochemical leg, because if we do not have a functioning, well-fed, imbalanced brain, everything else is out of balance. Everything else is so much harder to engage in effectively and constructively. So, what needs to be in balance for us to be able to cope with challenges? I'm going to use that word instead of stress. Challenges effectively. Well, first of all, we have to have stable blood sugar. Absolute foundation. And our recommendation for most people to have stable blood sugar, this isn't true for absolutely everybody, but for most people, is eating more or less 20 grams of protein every 4 waking hours. If you're premenstrual, it should probably be every 3 hours to keep blood sugar very, very, very stable. And to be avoiding your sugars and your simple carbs, which jack up the protein and then, I mean, your blood sugar and then drop it tremendously. So why is keeping stable blood sugar so absolutely crucial? Well, a couple of things. One, our brain actually needs, unless we're going keto, our brain needs a regular supply of glucose to function. Our prefrontal cortex, where we have not only our recovery skills, but also our stress management skills and our executive functioning skills with which we deal with challenging situations effectively. For that part of the brain to function, it's been shown scientifically it needs to be receiving a steady supply of glucose and oxygen. And so if blood sugar drops, it's not getting enough glucose. That's number one. Number two, if blood sugar drops, adrenaline kicks in. Adrenaline destabilizes us. Adrenaline is the chemical that makes us feel stressed. We feel stressed when we've got adrenaline running. We can feel anxious, agitated, reactive, irritable, or irritated, all the way to aggressive. So adrenaline itself is how we experience stress. Some adrenaline is useful. Some adrenaline or cortisol gets us up in the morning, gets us functioning, keeps us alert. If we're in a very high stress situation, we want a lot of adrenaline so that we can keep functioning. But too much of it brings some friends with it that are not friendly to us. And this is the anxiety, the reactiveness, the irritability, right? These are not useful ways of responding to stress. So a little bit of adrenaline is useful, but living there not only has emotional components to it that are not useful, but ends up significantly depleting our entire sense of well-being, and we end up exhausted and not able to cope with stress anymore. So we start with blood sugar. Then we look at our stress calming neurotransmitter systems. And so really all four of the neurotransmitter systems that we tend to talk about are involved in stress regulation. The two calming ones are the ones we think about first. So we want enough GABA so that we can relax our muscles, so that we can relax into restful sleep, that we can let go and just say, oh, okay, I can let all of that be over there, and I can now be home, I can rest, I can breathe, I can eat from a peaceful place rather than a stress place. I can play, I can have fun, I can go to sleep. I'm not carrying my stress with me into my dreams. So we need enough GABA for that. And we can get GABA through taking GABA supplements, GABA by itself, although you always want to start low when you're taking GABA. There's some chewable GABAs that just can take the edge off. I really like theanine as well when I feel really stressed. Like yesterday, I was working with a new bookkeeper, and we discovered that there was a $48,000 discrepancy in my books because my last two bookkeepers screwed up. And the bookkeeper said, oh yeah, all of these items in your QuickBooks Online, you just need to delete them. This is not income. This is probably duplicates. But right now, this is the amount that you're over, so we're just going to erase it. My stress, it went through the ceiling. Really? We are erasing deposits out of my books. Really? He said, it's okay. It's okay. Well, for me, it was not okay. So I went and took a theanine to bring myself down so that I could actually start breathing again and stop hyperventilating and trust the CPA with 12 years of experience. And it helped. The theanine allowed me to calm down, to breathe again, and actually to, think through the process. So supporting GABA, supporting our calming neurotransmitters. The other neurotransmitter that is a calming one is serotonin. Now, the symptoms of low serotonin that contributes to stress in a couple of different ways. When our serotonin is low, we tend to obsessively worry. We tend to get agitated. We can't let go of things. It goes round and round and round, and we sort of have to hold on, right? So at the end of my session with the bookkeeper, I had to actually go in and teach a class. I was fine. I was able to set it over here, trust that we will be able to pick it up again and fix it. My accountant can file an extension on my taxes. It's okay. But if my serotonin was low, here's what my brain would be doing. Oh my God, did somebody steal my money? Where did that money go? Did it get into my bank account or didn't it get into my bank account? What do you mean my bookkeepers reconciled my books when they actually didn't reconcile my books? And I can't get an extension from the IRS. Oh my goodness, I can't do that. I have to fix this all by Monday evening. Okay, that's what my low serotonin brain would be saying, and I'm sure you can all relate to that. But instead it was, nope, I've got solutions. It's okay. We're cool. I've been working on feeding my serotonin for a very long time, for which I'm very grateful. The other things with low serotonin is that we hold on to, we're very perfectionist. Things have to be just this way, and everybody else has to be doing things just this way, or else. Well, we can't really necessarily say what the or else is, but it feels like an or else. It feels like something really bad is going to happen if. And so my house has to be perfect. My books have to be perfect. My everything, appearance has to be perfect. Well, this is enormous stress. These are enormous sort of bars that we feel we have to live up to that put a lot of stress and pressure on ourselves that can be very hard and very draining over time. So when our serotonin is in place, it's like, okay, this doesn't have to be perfect. I don't have to be perfect. You don't have to be perfect. We can flow. Right? Flow is so nice, isn't it? But sometimes flow just seems out of reach. So this is why we need to support serotonin, and we can support serotonin, now eating the high protein diet with all the cofactors and the nutrient rich food, of course, feeds all of our neurotransmitter systems. But when we need a little bit of extra help, and in times of stress, all of our nutrients and neurotransmitters are used up in great big gobs. So sometimes we need to bring in more. Maybe we didn't need extra when life was fine. But when we're in a period of stress and challenge, we use up our neurotransmitters dramatically and quickly, and we need to replace them quickly. And that's where we bring in the amino acids. So for serotonin, it's either tryptophan or 5-HTP. Some people do better with one, some people do better with the other. And since aminos work within 20 minutes, like taking the theanine with my bookkeeper yesterday, it actually worked within like 5 minutes. These are very useful things to use in the moment, to use throughout the day, as well as to use in a protocol. Now, low serotonin can keep us from sleeping in two ways. Low serotonin itself will keep us from sleeping because we have all this stuff going on in our mind, right? You can't turn off the worry. And so the worry will either keep you from going to sleep or it will wake you up at 3 o'clock in the morning and you're still worrying. So that's one way. The other way low serotonin can interfere with sleep is because serotonin turns into melatonin. And melatonin is our sleep hormone. Melatonin tells our brain that it is time to sleep. Well, if we don't have enough serotonin going on, we're not going to have enough melatonin. And then we may go to bed tired, but we just can't sleep. We just can't sleep. So I always recommend bringing in tryptophan tends to be more sedating than 5-HTP, but tryptophan's not always a good choice for people. But to take either tryptophan or 5-HTP before bed to help turn off your mind, but also to convert into melatonin. Sometimes that conversion doesn't happen very efficiently, in which case you may want to bring in a little bit of melatonin, 2-3 milligrams max, not more than that. Right? We want to be using the 5-HTP and tryptophan itself to be creating more melatonin. So I have a new client who has been on 10 milligrams of melatonin for several years now to help her sleep. And it kind of sort of worked. But she's been complaining for years also of being really groggy in the morning when she wakes up. And none of her functional medical doctors were connecting the dots that her grogginess in the morning was due to 10 milligrams of melatonin at bedtime. That's a lot of melatonin. Until I came along and I said, really? You're groggy? And you're taking 10 milligrams of melatonin. Let's cut it in half. We're doing these other things for sleep. You don't need the 10 milligrams of melatonin. Let's just cut it down to 5. Christian, I'll answer that in a minute. And immediately her wake up in the morning grogginess went away. It just went away. So if you take too much tryptophan at night or too much melatonin or too much 5-HTP for that matter, you will feel groggy in the morning. And it's a type of grogginess that caffeine just doesn't touch. Okay, the question is, can you use tryptophan throughout the day for the rumination? Absolutely. What you want to bear in mind, however, is that tryptophan tends to be more sedating than 5-HTP. So I recommend that people use 5-HTP throughout the day and then tryptophan before bed. And if 5-HTP does not activate you, then you can take it before bed too. I'm fine with 5-HTP before bed. Other people, not so much. Other people can get too awakened and activated by 5-HTP right before bed. So, we're all individuals and there's a real trial and error process here. Also, if you have a lot of inflammation, if you know you're sitting on a lot of inflammation, then it's probably better to avoid tryptophan and just use 5-HTP. Because if you're already sitting in a highly inflamed state and you take tryptophan, it's more likely that the tryptophan is going to go down a neurotoxic pathway. It won't even get to 5-HTP. And it will not be good for you. So we recommend trialing these things. If they work great, if you take tryptophan and it works great, it's going where it's supposed to go, no problem. If it's not working, don't just keep trying to raise the dose, just switch over to 5-HTP. Any other questions so far about either GABA or serotonin? Okay. So the catecholamines. The catecholamines which are dopamine, norepinephrine, and epinephrine or adrenaline, they actually are what allow us to cope with stress. They're what allow us to step up and do the doing. They give us stress resiliency. You know, they give us energy, they give us stamina, they give us endurance. And we need that too. We need to be mellow, but we also need to have enough get up and go. And so we have to keep those things in balance. The US military has actually done a lot of study of tyrosine in helping support troops when more than usual is being asked of them. And it is very, very useful. So, do remember your tyrosine to just keep you going when you need to be going. When you wake up in the morning and what you really want to do is roll over and go back to sleep or even crawl under your bed. Start with the tyrosine, let it kick in, give it about an hour, and then bring in some theanine to deal with the overwhelm. And then we have the endorphins. And the endorphins kind of run with the catecholamines. So they can also give us a little bit of joy and get up and go. But sometimes stress, we feel stressed or it adds to our stress. If we're feeling deeply hurt, if we're feeling lonely, if we're feeling sad, if we're grieving. And the endorphins just help modulate that, help us continue to function and move through deep grief and loneliness and loss. One of the things the endorphins do, if we've had a great big loss or a great big trauma and we go numb, right? The function of the numbness is just so that we can keep doing the doing that we need to do. Well, it's the endorphins that allow us to stay numb and do the doing. But sometimes we deplete our endorphins too. And so taking the D-phenylalanine or the D, which you can buy online, you cannot buy it over the counter, or the DLPA, which is a combination of catecholamine support and endorphin support, that gives you both the get up and go and enough sort of pain relief that you can focus on what your next step is. So this is sort of an introduction to the biochemistry of stress relief and neurotransmitter support. Any questions or comments about that, or any stories about how people have found supporting your neurotransmitters or blood sugar in coping with stress? Yes, Susan.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, so the moment that I heard Julia Ross took the test, I know there seem to be a lot of professional licensed people here, but the moment that I heard Julia worked with her, Christina, but my first contact was that I scored high, mostly high in serotonin
Mm-hmm.
or low or whatever.
Right.
They were starving. Everything was starving on me,
Yes.
including the glutamine, the low blood sugar. And my experience has been, I just went out and ordered. I didn't even do the test kit.
Mm-hmm.
So if I got a certificate, I would have to learn how to do that because I knew without a shadow of a doubt that, my addictive nature was all over the charts,
Sure.
including my
And did
diet.
it help, Susan? And taking these amino acids, did they help? Did you find those numbers coming down?
Oh, you talk about the flow.
Yes.
And I was diagnosed 2 years ago with ADHD at the age of 72, and knew something was wrong. But
Right.
so the tyrosine and the DPLA, the L-tyrosine, I don't know what the difference is between straight tyrosine and L-tyrosine.
No difference, none at all.
Okay,
It's just different ways of saying the same name.
thank you. And so my experience has been close to a miracle. And so I just want to report that the flow that I feel. I also experienced a drop in blood sugar when I didn't have the glutamine in the one afternoon, and I promptly went
Mhm.
in and ate 2 donuts. I promptly went in and went right to the flour and sugar, and
That's
so
right.
and I didn't feel embarrassed. I've worked for years on all of that feeling thing, but I I ate them and I said, "See, you didn't take your glutamine."
There you
And
go. Well, thank you,
and
Susan.
yes, I
Thank you so
enjoyed
much.
them. Okay,
Yeah,
thank you.
I'm really glad. I want to I want to answer the question about good baseline dosage amounts. And you basically so here's the question. What are good baseline dosage amounts for GABA, theanine, tryptophan, 5-HTP, etc.? What level do we start individually or individuals? Are they safe in combination? Any impacts on liver or other systems with long-term use? Once improvements are felt, can individuals wean off? So these are really good questions, and I take an entire 6 months training program to answer them in full. Okay, but a 30-second answer, Sarah, is you start with one capsule. Whatever the bottle says, you start with one capsule. With GABA, you want to make sure that the capsule is 500 milligrams or less, not over. And then you build the dose until you find your sweet spot where it actually works within 20 minutes. If you keep going through the ceiling and it's not working, then you need to consult with somebody who knows what they're doing because there's other things that are maybe going on. There should not be any long-term effect on liver or kidneys. These are pure, this is purified food. The body knows how to deal with it. We are using, in my program, I teach you physiological doses of these amino acids. There are other professionals out there who use drug-like doses of aminos for specific effects and for major illness, and that's wonderful, but that's not what you're learning from me. Yes, once improvements are felt, can individuals wean off? Absolutely. It's sort of easy on, easy off. However, we want somebody to stay on it for a good 4 to 6 months because we don't want just immediate relief. We're actually trying to upregulate the brain. We're trying to rebuild neurotransmitter systems, and that actually takes time. So after about 4 to 6 months of numbers being great, then you come down slowly. Now, slowly is not because you're going to go into withdrawal, but it's because it may not be that you need 3,000 milligrams of tyrosine a day. You may need 1,000 milligrams of tyrosine a day. So you sort of cut down slowly, see how you do, cut down a little more, see how you do. When symptoms come back, you know that you just need to take a little more than that particular dose. And for maybe a couple more months, and then you can wean all the way off until, unless a stressor, major stressor happens, or you get really ill or something, and then you'll need more. My story, because I had a big, I think about when you try to put water in a bathtub, right? But the drain's open. Well, if you're running the water, you'll still get some water in the bathtub, but it really does help to close the drain, right? Well, there's a lot of things that happen in our life that are draining, and ongoing stress is draining, whether it be emotional stress or physical stress. Illness is draining. PTSD is draining. Stressful lives are draining. physical weirdnesses, of which I had many, are draining. So I had to be on the aminos for a good 10 years. Okay, long time. Then I didn't need them anymore. Then I sort of worked through everything. I'd reached a really good point. I didn't need the aminos to that degree anymore until I went through menopause. And then I did. And then I got through menopause, and then I didn't until I have to sit down with my bookkeeper and find out where $40,000 discrepancy came from. Then I do. Okay. So does that kind of answer your question? Great. All right. Second leg of the stool, psychosocial stressors. This is trickier because we have both the stressful event itself, and then we have the meaning of the stressful event, what feelings it brings up in us, and if it triggers any past trauma. So we know, of course, that either big T trauma or small t trauma in the past can lead to a current experience of just stress. We're living in sympathetic arousal. Our nervous system has been jacked up for a long time. And so we're approaching everything from a jacked up nervous system. So everything is going to be experienced as somewhat stressful, even if it's really not. So we need to be doing trauma work, if this is your, the case for you, that is more than just talk therapy. Talk therapy is not useful for trauma because trauma is actually stored in the nervous system and in the amygdala. So using a somatic form of psychotherapy or something like EMDR that works directly with the nervous system and the brain is required, along with supportive skill building talk therapy. I'm not saying we shouldn't do any talk therapy. I've been a talk therapist for 40 years. I am also highly trained in EMDR and somatic psychotherapy and how to get stress out of the nervous system. So that's crucial. If you're sitting on stuff that hasn't been healed yet, and trauma unfortunately heals in layers, we think we've done it, and then it pops up again a couple years later and says, "Hi, I'm here." Like, really? I thought I dealt with you. No, now I have to come in at a different angle and do a different layer. That's normal. Okay, that's normal. That's just the way it works. But so doing your trauma work, because otherwise, if something painful happens, it will trigger whatever is unhealed from the past, and now you're dealing with painful feelings from the current event, exaggerated or amplified by painful feelings from the past. So sometimes when you think that you are overreacting to something, well, it could be that your blood sugar's low and you're running on adrenaline, and as soon as you eat, the overreaction goes away. But sometimes it's because you've got you're reacting to your current event, plus something that happened when you were 15, plus something that happened when you were 10, plus something that happened when you were 5. So yeah, it can look like you're overreacting to the current event, but you're reacting quite normally to age 5, age 10, age 15, and now what's happening in the present. That makes sense to everybody? So really understanding that and being able to sit with yourself and saying, okay, where actually is all of this coming from? So that's one whole thing. There's actually one sort of adjunct therapy to trauma work that is interesting and useful. It has a particular name, and I can't remember the particular name right now. where you literally shake your whole body and you get into a state where you're shaking to get it out of your nervous system and to get it out of your muscles. And that, I just brought that up because that's sort of an interesting adjunct here. Okay. Self-talk. If we respond to stress in our lives or challenges in our lives with the beliefs and the words of, I'm no good, I can't do it, it's all my fault, see how badly I handled that situation, we will feel more pain and more stress. Now, going back to serotonin, one of the things that serotonin also regulates is self-esteem and negative self-talk. So the healthier your serotonin is, the less self-attack you're going to be doing. So when you find yourself really beating yourself up over how you handled a stressful situation, take some 5-HTP. It'll help bring you back down again. But really listening, Dr. Amen calls these automatic negative thoughts, and they just say themselves in your brain, but they do impact your nervous system, and they are draining and they're not useful. So learning to listen to the automatic negative thoughts, whether they be about yourself or the world or other people, and changing it to something neutral or something positive makes an enormous amount of difference. This also ties into the third leg of the stool, where we're talking about basic trust in the world. Basic trust that other people usually, not always, but usually have our best interests in mind, and that things will usually work out one way or the other. And when we've had a lot of childhood trauma or unmet needs in young childhood, what's now called developmental trauma or complex PTSD, we don't feel safe in the world. And we don't expect good things. In fact, we expect bad things, and we're always waiting for the next shoe to drop, right? Anybody have that experience of just waiting for the next shoe to drop? So you can't actually relax into and enjoy the good that's happening now, because I know it's not going to last. Something bad's just going to happen around the corner and I have to be prepared for it. Well, that's not actually particularly useful. And this is where we want to take both, continue to do emotional healing as well as some spiritual work to be able to shift over into a different mindset. And then finally, there are a lot of stress reduction skills. So the first, we've talked about stress reduction skills in changing our self-talk and cognitive therapy. So we have cognitive behavioral therapy, which is not my most favorite therapy in the world. Okay, I'm a depth therapist. I'm a trauma therapist. Okay, cognitive behavioral therapy can only work so far with trauma. We need to do this. It can only do this. However, that is still useful. So if you need help in changing your mindset and changing your negative belief system, changing your self-talk, cognitive behavioral therapy will help with that and can help tremendously. It's just not enough. But there's a place for it. But then there are your relaxation skills. Your breathing, how we breathe can make a tremendous difference to how we experience stress. So there's a whole variety of useful stress reducing breathing techniques out of there that can also be useful if you're having a panic attack. But One of the ones to bear in mind is just plain belly breathing. Rather than breathing into your chest and your shoulders, like, right? We breathe into our belly where my shoulders stay still. But if I put my hands on my belly button, they move out, right? And you're breathing. Your tummy's doing this and that, right? And there's something about belly breathing that actually calms down our nervous system and shifts us from sympathetic arousal into parasympathetic calm. And then there's the breathing, breathing to the count of 4, hold for a count of 4, exhale for a count of 4, hold for a count of 4. That's called square breathing. 4, 4, 4, 4. And that can also be very calming, especially if you find yourself, as I said, panicking or hyperventilating. Doing the square breathing is useful. Then there is progressive relaxation. And progressive relaxation is where you start with your toes. In fact, I'm going to take us all through a very quick progressive relaxation exercise. Okay, everybody ready? Okay, I want you to close your eyes for a minute, or not. I never like closing my eyes. Take a deep breath and just notice the breath. Take another deep breath, maybe a belly breath. Let it out. Now bring all your attention to your toes. I want you to scrunch up your toes and press your feet against the floor. And notice all sensations. Notice that sensation of scrunching up your toes, relaxing them. Scrunching, relaxing. You can even breathe in when you scrunch. Breathe in, scrunch, relax. Notice the sensation of your feet on the floor, of your feet in the shoes. Maybe your toes are cold if you're barefoot. Now bring your awareness up your calves, up to your bottom. Notice the sensation of your rear end on your chair or wherever you're sitting on. Your clothing on your legs. And then tighten up your butt, tighten up your leg muscles as tight as you can. Breathe in, hold, breathe out, and relax. Tighten up, breathe in, hold, relax. Okay? Now move up to your tummy and scrunch your tummy in. Let it go. It's kind of hard to breathe in when your tummy is scrunched in. So you relax your tummy and breathe in, and then you scrunch and breathe out. Okay? But notice other sensations in your tummy. Are you holding anxiety there? Do you have butterflies? Are you hungry? Are you full? Do you need to go to the bathroom? Right? Just acknowledge, just notice. This is a noticing exercise. Bring your attention back up to your chest and notice your breathing. Is it slow and deep? Is it fast and high up? Does your breath catch as you breathe somewhere, maybe in your throat? My breath used to catch for years because I was holding all these unshed tears in my throat, so I couldn't even take a deep breath. Now bring your awareness up to your shoulders and your arms and hands and scrunch it all. Okay? Clench your fist. Raise up your shoulders. Breathe in, breathe out, and relax. Breathe in, scrunch, breathe out. Now your face. Notice your jaw. We hold a lot of tension in our jaw. We can hold tension in our nostrils and our eyes. Notice what's there. And then scrunch up your face, clench your jaw. Breathe in. Unclench, breathe out. Scrunch up your face. Nobody's looking. relax. And then just take a peek inside your head. Notice, do you have a headache? What's your head feeling like? And then what thoughts are there? Don't engage with the thoughts if you can help it. Just notice what's there. And come back to your breath. Take a deep, long breath. Let it out. Shake yourself all over and open your eyes. Okay, what was that like? Anybody want to report? Elena liked it. Sarah liked it.
And I say you really don't know how tense you are sometimes till you get untense. You're like, oh,
Exactly.
maybe I was a little tense.
Mhm. Now, I actually recommend doing that exercise quickly. You can actually do it in 30 seconds. And sometimes it's better to do it slowly, but sometimes you can do it actually really quickly. I call it coming home to your body. And we actually want to be doing this periodically throughout the day, because when we're in normal life situations, we tend to live out there, right? We're focused out there, we're doing stuff out there, and we leave ourselves. We have no idea how we're feeling, how we're responding, what our needs are, because we're not paying any attention. So to cope with stress effectively, we have to keep coming back home. We have to keep coming back into our bodies. We have to check in with ourselves. What am I feeling physically? What am I feeling emotionally? What am I wanting and needing right now? Maybe get up and go pee, right? But it may be something else as well. You relax, you take care of your needs, you figure out how you're going to get your wants taken care of, and then you move on. But if you start doing this a couple of times a day and sort of schedule it, stick it in your calendar or tie it with going to the bathroom or having a meal, it becomes automatic. It becomes second nature. So for me now, I've been doing this for 40 years. My body itself will notice when it's getting out of balance, when I'm out there somewhere and I need to come back, and I will automatically find myself taking a deep breath, checking in, calming down, noticing if I need to go take a theanine, right? So doing this is a deceptively simple exercise. It's a very simple exercise, but it's profoundly powerful over time. And I teach all my clients it. So that we're running nearing the end of the hour here. So I'm going to stop at this point. Questions, comments, thoughts, stories? Somebody who hasn't spoken up yet? Yeah, Elena.
Yeah, thanks so much, Christina. You're just fabulous. This is really timely because just yesterday got a text from the mother of a young woman Jeff had been working with first, then me, clean from fentanyl, went from living on the streets to having an apartment, a job, etc. And stopped working with her in December and still in touch with the mom because the family engagement training. And the mom just found out yesterday that the daughter has actually not been clean for the last 4 months. And it was clear that she was retreating. So I want to, the thing about the stool is the emphasis on what she had retreated from was the recovery community. She was well, it was happening. I get it. I did it years ago. And she'd been lying to herself. Now, the beauty of her having done, I feel, she didn't do the Suboxone, she did the opiate, the whole endorphin thing, everything, and everything else. The beauty of that was that she turned herself into a detox already. She's full of shame. She's being truthful. But she was really adamant at last year about not wanting to be labeled for life as an addict. I don't want that label my whole life. The fact of the matter is, it is a certain thing that certain of us do that other people don't do to cope. So it's humbling. It's back to being teachable. It's humility. And I credit the aminos and everything that we all do here to her getting, pretty quickly turning herself in right back to,
Good.
she also got a job in the restaurant
and-
industry, which
And
I worked in for
getting
years.
back on the horse. Yeah, the
Yeah.
restaurant industry is not a particularly
I
safe
worked in it for
industry for
years,
people in
number
recovery.
one industry for alcohol and substance use. Yeah.
Yeah.
So anyway, thanks. This is great today.
You're welcome. Anything else? Questions, comments? Takeaways?
I just wanted to add to what everyone is saying. These are great seminars, which I love coming to because I always learn more and more and help myself in my sobriety journey and recovery. When I started, these helped me at the beginning. Now I'm just having issues with sleeping, but during the day when like for example, when at night I'm able to sleep decent, the next day I feel fabulous, and it's because the aminos and the nutrition that I'm doing. Still trying to get to that point where my physiological, body and mind will balance to get me to sleep, because I know it's going to be great. But just hearing to what Christina said, it's also bringing the spirituality and the relaxation part as well, which I'm also trying to bring into the practice, just as a
Very good.
holistic practice. So yeah.
Good for you, Christian. Welcome. All right. Anything else before we call it a day? We good? Well, hopefully I'll see you all in 2 weeks, if not sooner. And maybe in one of my courses down the road. Bye, everyone.